Do you think forgetfulness, a change in how you walk, or trouble sleeping, is just part of getting older? Here's the truth. What seems like harmless signs might be early warnings from your brain and your heart. Research shows that in many cases, dementia starts far earlier than most people think, sometimes decades before it's diagnosed. What's even more concerning is that many of these early signs also double as heart attack symptoms, and most people never see it coming. Memory loss isn't just a brain issue. When your heart struggles to pump blood, less oxygen reaches your brain. That affects key areas responsible for emotions, speech and movement, and that's when dementia begins to surface. But here's the twist. It could also be your body's way of showing heart attack symptoms through your nervous system. And that kind of warning is seriously dangerous. Before I tell you the first sign to watch, remember this. The earlier you detect it, the better your chances of protecting both your memory and your heart. You don't have to wait for chest pain to know something's wrong. The heart always gives warnings if you know where to look. I'm Dr. Laura, a specialist in geriatrics and cardiology, with over 30 years of experience working with thousands of patients over 60 across the U.S. And I'll be blunt, I've seen far too many people pass away simply because they thought that's just normal aging. One mother thought she was just dealing with depression, but it turned out to be early-stage dementia paired with silent heart disease. One man struggled with balance while walking. What he didn't realize was that he was in the pre-heart attack stage and had no clue. What I'm about to share with you are the 10 earliest signs from the brain, but recognizing them in time could save your heart. And if you're thinking, nothing serious is going on with me, then you especially need to watch this video until the end. Because the truth is, most people catch it too late. They started just like you. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen, both from patients and their families, is brushing off signs like forgetfulness, sleep issues, or unsteady walking as just aging. But here's the truth. These are the early stages of dementia. And at the same time, they can also be how the heart sends out heart attack symptoms when it's not getting enough blood and oxygen to the brain. We often wait for chest pain to call it a heart attack. But the heart can speak up long before that, through memory, posture, emotions, and even how you sleep. And if we listen early enough, so much can change. Before I tell you the very first sign to look out for, I want to ask you something. Do you genuinely want to keep your memory sharp, protect your heart, and stay independent for longer? If the answer is yes, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. I'm constantly sharing the earliest red flags every person over 60 needs to know. And if this video is hitting close to home, drop a 1 in the comments, not sure yet. Leave a 0 I read and reply to every single one. Sign or 1. Shorter steps, when your brain and heart start to struggle together. One of the earliest yet most overlooked signs of decline is in how you walk. Many of my patients come in for entirely different reasons, but when I ask more profound questions, they realize that lately they've been dragging their feet instead of walking with purpose. Losing balance when turning or feeling wobbly and slow when standing up. Family members often brush it off as normal for someone their age. But let me be clear. This is a classic early sign of dementia, especially when it's linked to disruption in the brain's motor coordination regions. Even more concerning, if your steps are slowing down for no apparent reason, it could be a sign that your circulatory system is weakening. When your heart isn't pumping enough blood to your brain areas like the cerebellum and frontal lobe begin to suffer. And that can be one of the silent heart attack symptoms most people completely overlook. I remember Mr. Richard, who is 71 years old. He used to be a consistent walker, but over just a few months, he started tripping on stairs, taking shorter steps, and needing to hold onto handrails. When his family finally brought him in, He seemed mentally sharp, but his brain MRI revealed early motor cortex degeneration, and his cardiac tests showed chronic ischemic heart disease with 65% blockage in his coronary arteries. If they had waited just a few more months, he could have faced a heart attack without any of the typical warning signs. So, never ignore the way you walk. If you've noticed slower steps, more unsteadiness, or dragging your feet for no apparent reason, it's time to check both your brain and your heart. Because sometimes the heart doesn't cry out in pain, it just quietly makes every step feel heavier. Now, before I show you how to improve this, let's move on to sign number 2. Something many dismiss as just a bit of insomnia. But in reality, it's a major red flag for both your brain and your arteries. Sign number 2. Disrupted sleep. When your heart wakes up your brain. If you often wake up suddenly in the middle of the night, feel unrested despite sleeping 78 hours, or struggle to fall into deep sleep, pay attention. This isn't just stress or aging. Disturbed sleep is one of the earliest warning signs of both dementia and heart disease. During sleep, your brain goes into cleanup mode, flushing out toxic proteins, reinforcing memory, and repairing neurons. But when your sleep is fragmented, that process gets interrupted. Over time, amyloid plaques, one of the major culprits behind Alzheimer's, begin to build up. That's why frequent restless sleep is often tied to early-stage dementia. But it doesn't stop there. Chronic insomnia, night sweats, or sudden spikes in heart rate during sleep are also silent heart attack symptoms. When your heart isn't strong enough to maintain stable circulation at rest, your body goes into emergency mode. You wake up at 2 or 3 a.m., confused, maybe short of breath, with your heart racing, and chalk it up to a weird dream. One of my patients, Eleanor, age 69, told me she often dreamt of falling and woke up with her heart pounding. Her family thought it was just aging anxiety, but a sleep study and cardiac exam revealed she had REM sleep disorder and nighttime arrhythmia, both signs of underlying ischemic heart disease. After we stabilized her heart rhythm and enrolled her in a sleep restoration program, her memory and mood drastically improved in just 2 months. So, if you're tossing and turning, waking up from vivid dreams, noticing a racing heart at night, or feeling drained in the morning, don't write it off. This could be your heart and brain sounding the alarm, asking for real rest and genuine care. Next, I'll reveal an even sneakier sign, something most people shrug off as just a little forgetfulness, but is a double warning from both your nervous system and your cardiovascular system. Sign number 3. Disorientation, when memory and blood flow both go off track. It often starts small, forgetting the way out of the grocery store, walking into a room, and not remembering why, or freezing in the hallway at home. Most people laugh it off with, "I'm just getting older, it's no big deal." But in truth, mild disorientation, especially in familiar places, is an early warning sign of dementia, and it can also signal reduced blood flow to the brain caused by a struggling heart. When your heart can't pump enough blood, critical brain regions such as the hippocampus and parietal lobe, responsible for short-term memory and spatial awareness, start to falter. That's why some early heart attack symptoms don't show up in the chest, but in the brain, in the form of confusion or getting lost. One of my patients, Sam, age 73, told me he was out walking in his neighborhood park when he suddenly stopped and thought, "I don't know where I am." He wasn't dizzy and didn't fall, his mind just went blank for a few minutes. After testing, he was diagnosed with cerebral hypoperfusion caused by mild coronary artery narrowing and also early-stage dementia. So if you or someone you love starts getting lost in familiar places or experiences, sudden moments of disorientation while fully awake, take it seriously. It could be a warning from both the brain and the heart, and early detection can make all the difference. Sign number 4. Word loss. when your speech breaks down and so does your heart. One of the earliest signs of dementia, often overlooked, is difficulty with word finding. People begin to hesitate mid-sentence, repeat simple phrases, or mix up common words. But instead of noticing the warning, most people around them just shrug and say, "That's just old age." The truth is that the brain's language centers are susceptible to low oxygen and reduced blood flow. When the heart isn't pumping efficiently, or when arrhythmias disrupt circulation blood flow to key areas such as Broca's area and the frontal lobe becomes uneven. This interrupts how we form and retrieve words. It's a subtle form of speech difficulty that reflects two deeper issues: the onset of dementia and reduced cerebral blood flow caused by heart dysfunction. Helen, age 70, was a retired teacher, clear, articulate, and expressive. But then she started mixing up words like cup and spoon, or pausing mid-thought because she forgot what she was about to say. Tests later revealed early-stage dementia and mild nighttime arrhythmia, an early heart attack symptom that often flies under the radar. So if you've noticed yourself or a loved one frequently pausing, struggling to find simple words, or substituting words without realizing it, don't ignore it. Track the changes, talk to your doctor, and make sure your heart health gets checked, because memory and the heart are always speaking the same language. And if you've ever dismissed mood swings as just part of getting older, the next sign may surprise you when the brain starts shutting down emotions and the heart begins running on empty. Sign number 5. Emotional flatness, when the heart wears out. The brain stops reacting, one of the easiest signs to miss yet. One that shows up early in many dementia patients is a loss of emotional response. Someone who used to be warm, funny, or caring suddenly becomes distant, flat, rarely smiles, and doesn't seem happy or sad, almost like their feelings have been switched off. A common mistake is assuming that's just old age, older folks don't talk much or show interest anymore. But in reality, this is a clear sign of emotional blunting, a dulling of emotional expression that often appears in the early stages of dementia. And when it's paired with chronic fatigue, shortness of breath, and poor concentration, it's likely the heart is struggling too. Science shows that when blood flow to the frontal cortex, the brain's emotional control center is reduced. Due to poor heart function, emotional responses begin to fade. This is why cardiac fatigue often mimics mild depression. I remember treating Mr. Charles, age 68, a man known for his energy and humor. However, over the course of a few months, he lost interest in the conversation and barely reacted to joyful news from his grandchildren. After testing, he was diagnosed with early dementia and moderate coronary artery narrowing. So if someone you love starts becoming unusually indifferent, emotionally distant, or disconnected for an extended period, don't dismiss it as just their age. It may be a severe warning from both the heart and the brain. Up next is a sign that seems completely unrelated: weak grip strength. But don't underestimate it. Your fingers might be trying to tell you something about your entire circulatory system. Sign number 6. Weak grip. When your fingers send an alarm to both heart and brain. Have you noticed lately that you're dropping things more often, struggling to open jars, or feeling like your grip just isn't as firm as it used to be? Many people chalk it up to age or joint issues, but in reality, declining grip strength is one of the most reliable early indicators of both dementia and heart disease risk. Studies show that individuals with weaker grip strength are 30–50% more likely to experience cognitive decline and face a significantly higher risk of cardiovascular death. Why? Because grip strength doesn't just measure muscle, it reflects motor nerve health, blood circulation, and the coordination between your brain, heart, and muscles. I once examined Mr. David, 74, who said he couldn't even squeeze a tube of toothpaste anymore. His grip strength test showed nearly 40% below normal. Further tests revealed signs of mild cognitive impairment and reduced cardiac contractility, even though he'd never had obvious heart symptoms before. So, if you or someone you know starts experiencing weak hands difficulty gripping or reduced hand strength, don't dismiss it. This could be an early alert from both your motor system and your circulatory system. And it's not just about joints you need to check your brain and heart too. But what I'm about to share might surprise you even more: the loss of smell. Something most people brush off can be one of the brain and blood vessels' earliest silent cries for help. Sign number 7. Loss of smell. When scents disappear, your brain and heart may be suffocating. If you've recently noticed food smells fading, or can't detect familiar scents like coffee laundry detergent or gasoline, don't brush it off. This isn't just a leftover symptom from COVID or a sinus issue. Loss of smell is one of the earliest signs of dementia, as documented in numerous neurological studies. At the same time, it can be linked to reduced blood flow to the brain caused by cardiovascular decline. Your brain's smell center is located in the temporal lobe, a region susceptible to poor circulation and nerve damage. When your heart can't pump effectively, or tiny vessels start to harden, the neurons in this area begin to deteriorate, leading to a fading sense of smell. I once treated Michael, age 69, who came in saying, "Food just doesn't taste the same," and he was disturbed that he didn't notice the smell of smoke from his kitchen. Testing revealed olfactory nerve loss and reduced blood flow in his carotid arteries, an early warning sign of combined dementia and stroke risk. So if you or someone close to you suddenly loses their sense of smell without a cold or sinus infection, get both the nervous system and cardiovascular system checked. Because when your brain can no longer detect scent, your heart might already be losing its ability to protect it. But the smell isn't the final signal. There's one more familiar sensation if you stop noticing it when sitting down or taking a step. It could be time to act fast. Sign number 8. Numbness and loss of deep sensation. When nerves and blood vessels go silent together. Have you ever felt tingling or numbness in your hands or feet? Like pins and needles, or a loss of awareness of where your limbs are? Maybe you chalked it up to poor posture, low calcium, or spine issues. But if this sensation happens frequently, it could be an early sign of peripheral nerve damage, one of the quiet beginnings of dementia. At the same time, it may reflect declining microvascular function as your heart struggles to circulate blood effectively. When nerves don't receive enough oxygen and nutrients from the bloodstream, they lose their ability to transmit sensory signals accurately. That's why numbness and reduced proprioception often show up alongside memory decline, delayed reflexes, and increased heart attack risk in older adults. I once treated Louise, a 72-year-old woman, who said, "It feels like my feet aren't touching the ground, like I'm walking without feeling the floor." Her tests showed impaired peripheral nerve conduction and reduced microvascular perfusion, clear signs of early dementia and chronic heart failure. So if you or a loved one is experiencing frequent numbness or no longer senses body position when moving, don't dismiss it. Have both the nervous system and circulatory system evaluated, because your brain and heart could be sending warning signals through your fingertips and toes. There's still one more sign to watch for one that's so common, it often gets ignored: sleep disruption. And you'll be surprised to learn just how closely it's tied to your risk of both heart failure and memory loss. Sign number 9, disrupted sleep. When the heart wakes the brain in the middle of the night. Do you often wake up in the middle of the night, struggle to fall back asleep? Or do you feel completely exhausted even after a full night's rest? This isn't just ordinary insomnia. Disturbed sleep, especially abnormal REM sleep, is one of the earliest warning signs of dementia. And at the same time, it's a silent signal that heart disease may already be advancing. When the heart can't maintain steady circulation during the night, oxygen to the brain becomes inconsistent, leading to repeated awakenings, vivid dreams, shallow breathing, or a racing heartbeat while you sleep. Over time, this disrupts brain regions tied to memory and emotional regulation. I remember Robert, age 70, who came in saying, "I wake up more tired than when I went to bed." His EEG and sleep study showed shortened REM cycles and frequent micro-awakenings. Nighttime EKG also revealed rhythm irregularities. The final diagnosis, early-stage dementia and chronic myocardial ischemia. If you or someone you love wakes up multiple times per night, struggles to reach deep sleep, or never feels restored in the morning, don't just chalk it up to age. It could be a profound message from your heart and your brain. And finally, there's one more sign. The clearest, most heartbreaking one is when someone no longer remembers who you are. That's not just memory loss. That's when the heart has grown tired and the brain has begun letting go of its last connection. Sign number 10. Significant memory loss, when both your heart and memories start to drift away. There's nothing more heartbreaking than the moment a loved one, your parent, partner, or grandparent, no longer remembers who you are. Short-term memory loss, like repeating questions, forgetting what they just ate, or missing appointments, is often an early sign of dementia. But when someone begins to forget long-term memories, or familiar names, or starts telling a different version of their own life story, it means both the brain and cardiovascular system have deteriorated more severely. The brain can't store or retrieve memories without proper blood and oxygen. When the heart weakens or the cerebral arteries harden, memory centers, such as the hippocampus and temporal lobe, begin to shrink. At this point, memory loss isn't just a neurological issue, it's the outcome of a system-wide breakdown, especially involving the heart. I'll never forget Gerald, 76, who sat silently as his daughter came to visit. He smiled, but his eyes were distant. That day, he asked her, "Are you one of the nurses here?" Brain scans showed advanced hippocampal atrophy and prolonged brain hypoxia from undiagnosed chronic heart disease. If someone close to you forgets who you are, please don't just say, "They're old now." Understand this: the brain doesn't lose memories by accident. It's starving and starving for oxygen, nutrients, and care. And every lost memory is one final cry from both the mind and the heart. Tomorrow morning, before your day begins, do one simple thing. Write down one unusual change you've noticed in yourself or a loved one. Don't ignore it. And don't just think brain. Think heart. Go. 2. Because when memory starts to slip, the heart may already be tired. You're not losing your mind, you're just letting your brain go unfed and unnoticed. And even if your heart is weary, it's still trying desperately to hold on to every last thread of connection. Your body still has a chance to heal if you act in time. If this message resonates with you, please share this video with someone you care about. Don't let them walk this journey alone. And if you've seen or experienced any of these 10 signs, leave a comment below. We read every single one. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where I'll show you how to protect your memory, strengthen your heart, and age with clarity, purpose, and connection.